Welcome everybody to Octacage MMA. Talking about the UFC Fight Night in Singapore. So I actually stayed up late and I caught the early prelims. It was 2 a.m. my time, Pacific time. And I watched a couple of fights in the early prelims and it knocked out. I went to bed. I couldn't stand it anymore. So I was really exhausted. And then of course my baby daughter decides to wake me up at about 7 something a.m. She was dead hungry, just crying. So I had to assist my wife and help feed her. And then I opened up my phone just to check what's going on. I already anticipated that it's going to be over or near the end as far as the fight night. And yeah, at that very moment when I woke up, Giga Chikadze won by decision versus Alex Casares. So I was like, oh great, all right, well at least I can watch the co-main and the main event of that fight night. And so I did. So I started feeding my baby daughter with the bottle. And then I watched Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. So as expected, I mean as expected, I don't know what to call it really. It was pretty pathetic. It was a pathetic fight. Anthony Smith won by decision, and I agree with the decision. Even though it was a split decision, it was pretty damn close. I do understand why he won. He literally just touched him more than Ryan Spann touched him. It's a game of like, hey, how many times can I touch you and you touch me as less as possible? And Anthony Smith won that game. However, when Ryan Spann touched him, he almost knocked him out, especially in the second round. If Ryan Spann, I believe if he knew how to execute that better, he would have finished the fight and we wouldn't be even having this conversation. But alas, here we are. Anthony Smith won by decision. He barely survived. I think Ryan Spann was in no moment in danger of a TKO KO by Anthony Smith. I mean, he was just so passive. He was so defensive, just throwing in those calf kicks. Sure, he hurt him a little bit with the calf kicks, maybe put him out of his comfort zone. But the pace of the fight was really slow. It was just disappointing. I anticipated then. The moment that Anthony Smith won, I knew he was not going to retire. But he might as well have just retired there. To be fair, he would have went out with the win and just sail off in the sunset. But here we are. Anthony Smith wants to stay. He didn't call out anybody. I think he's just going to be a gatekeeper, and he's satisfied in that role of being a gatekeeper for the top 5, top 6 guys. Until a prospect comes and really hurts him, which would suck. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but that's how it appears it's going in that direction. So then, yeah, that fight ended, whatever. The whatever fight comes in Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie, and that was a great reception. By the way, it was a great night, and I'm so happy for our Asian brothers watching the MMA finally after a while. There was, even in the early prelims, the arena wasn't even filled, but it was so loud. Everybody was so excited, and then once it filled up for the main event, it was blasting. Korean Zombie comes in with the zombie song, What's in Your Head, Zombie, and everybody's singing it. It was great. I mean, at that moment, everybody knew that's it. That's his final walkout, and it was just an electrifying atmosphere. So that was great. Max Holloway came out. They also rooted for Max. There was no boos for Max. Very respectful crowd. And I think Max in the post-conference said, like, hey, I've received a shot from Zombie. Everybody's cheering for the Zombie. And then I landed a shot. Everybody's chanting for Holloway. So it was just great. It was awesome. And then, yes, Max, as expected, won that fight in a dominant fashion. He almost knocked him out in the second round, but he was so respectful. He didn't want to hurt. Apparently, he didn't want to hurt Zombie. So he, instead of finishing him off with the ground shots, he went for the submission. Korean Zombie somehow survived the submission. He was just, he was like really, really close. It was a tight hold on his neck, but he managed to survive that. Comes round 3, and he decided to go off on the shield, which is okay. I would rather him not going out that way, continue to fight, try to find his chance in 5 rounds. But yeah, he just went with the flurry of shots, and of course, Max punished him quickly with the hit on the chin. Laid him down flat, and that was it. That's the end of the Korean Zombie. He sails off in the sunset. He retired. And we, as I predicted in my video, I didn't predict the retirement, but my biggest question was what's for the winner, in this case, Max Holloway. Max Holloway did not call out anybody on the mic. He has no idea. He has no intention of fighting anybody right now. So he was leaving the UFC to decide for him who's going to fight him. Or actually, he's saying, he's in his own words, I leave it up to the fans in the UFC to decide who's going to fight. Which I think he could have a different approach, better approach. I don't think that's the way to the top. And I also do understand it would be really weird for him to call out Volkanovski right now. Volkanovski's got pretty much Topuria next in line. Topuria started tweeting, calling out Volkanovski. There was even a little bit in between Sean O'Malley and Topuria. So that's an interesting also fight. O'Malley coming off as a champion of the bantamweight division. He's kind of throwing himself out there like, you know what, maybe he would fight at the featherweight. But I think that is too soon. That fight might happen in the future. We're talking about a couple of years because, like I said, first of all, Topuria has to be the winner of the featherweight division. He has to be the champion of that division before we have any of these conversations. And as well, Sean O'Malley needs to defend his title at the bantamweight before we have a big fight between those two divisions. So yeah, what's in it for Max? I really don't know. I mean, he can stay there, see what happens with Topuria versus Volkanovski. Maybe for him, what would really make sense is to go up in weight, up a weight class. Maybe that would make sense for him. Or if Topuria actually, if that match, first of all, gets scheduled, Volkanovski versus Topuria, maybe he would definitely should be rooting for Topuria and go and get his championship against Topuria. If Topuria wins, of course. But counting out Volkanovski in any scenario would be quite foolish, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens there. Let me know what you guys think. And also, please stay tuned if you like this video and if you want to see what's coming up next. I plan on talking about the next fight night, which I'm very excited about, just because of the main fight, which will be in Paris. UFC Fight Night in Paris will be Cyril Gane versus Sergey Spivak, which I believe is going to be a career changer for those two fighters. That's a very important fight, and stylistically, I think it's a great matchup. I expect fireworks in that fight. So yeah, stay tuned. Please hit that notification bell, and I'll be posting about that in a couple of days. And I'll see you in the next video.